All right, so let's not sugarcoat it. Japan and the United States, once the model of international friendship, are seeing cracks in their decades old alliance. But this isn't just a story about geopolitics or trade wars, it's about how global tensions can quietly creep into your life. The price of your car, the tech you rely on, even the sense of security you feel, they're all connected to this story. So, why does the relationship between these two allies seem to be unraveling, and why should you care? So, to understand what's happening now, we need to go back to where it all began. Post World War II, Japan was a nation in ruins. Its cities were decimated, its economy shattered, and its military power stripped away. But the US stepped in not as an enemy, but as a partner. Under the United States' watch, Japan transformed itself into an economic powerhouse. The 1951 Treaty of Mutual Cooperation and Security cemented their alliance. The US provided military protection while Japan focused on economic growth, becoming a leader in manufacturing and technology. For decades, this partnership worked like a charm. Japan supplied the world with cars and electronics, much of which landed in American households, while the US offered stability and open markets in return. Their collaboration wasn't just about economics, it was a pillar of peace in a volatile Asia. But then the world changed. The first signs of strain weren't obvious, but they were there. The 1980s saw Japan's economy boom, creating trade imbalances that made US policymakers uneasy. By the 1990s, as Japan's economy stalled during its lost decade, the dynamic shifted. The US remained dominant, but Japan's role as a junior partner became more prominent. For years, Japan accepted this arrangement, but as the 21st century unfolded, new challenges emerged. The rise of China changed the balance of power in Asia, prompting Japan to rethink its dependence on the US. At the same time, the US began demanding more from its allies, including Japan, in terms of trade and security. Now, fast forward to the present, and the economic relationship that once defined their alliance is now a source of conflict. One major flashpoint, well, the blocked acquisition of US steel by Japan's Nippon Steel in late 2024. The US cited national security concerns, but to Japan, this decision felt arbitrary and unfair. This wasn't an isolated incident. Over the past few years, the US has increasingly scrutinized foreign investments, particularly in sectors like technology and infrastructure. And while this scrutiny is often aimed at China, Japan has found itself caught in the crossfire. And then there's trade. The US has long pushed Japan to open its markets to American agricultural products, a move Japan has resisted to protect its domestic farmers. These disputes might seem like technicalities, but they've created an undercurrent of mistrust. Now, if economies are one half of the story, security is the other. For decades, the US has been the dominant military power in the Pacific, with Japan relying heavily on American bases and defense guarantees. But as China's military grows and North Korea remains unpredictable, Japan is rethinking its strategy. In recent years, Japan has announced plans to double its defense spending and modernize its military. This aligns with US calls for allies to share more of the security burdens, but it also signals a subtle shift in Japan's approach. By boosting its own capabilities, Japan is preparing for a future where it might need to act independently, especially if US commitments waver. Now, it's impossible to talk about US-Japan relations without mentioning China. As China's influence grows, it has become both a competitor and a destabilizing force in the region. For Japan, China is a direct threat, particularly in disputed territories like the Senkaku Islands. The US shares Japan's concerns about China, but its approach has been inconsistent. While Washington has ramped up military cooperation with Japan and other allies, it has also engaged in trade negotiations with Beijing, sending mixed signals. For Japan, this duality raises questions. Can the US be trusted to prioritize its allies over its own interests? By now, you might be wondering how this high stakes chess game between nations affects you, and the answer is in more ways than you might think. First, consider the products that you use every day. From cars to smartphones, many rely on US-Japan supply chains. If tensions disrupt these chains, you could see higher prices and more delays. Second, there's the issue of global stability. The US-Japan alliance has been a cornerstone of peace in Asia. If it weakens, the balance of power could shift, emboldening nations like China and North Korea. This instability could have ripple effects from stock market volatility to increased military spending. So what's next? And that's the trillion-dollar question here. Japan and the US have too much to lose to let their alliance unravel completely, but maintaining it will require some compromise, clear communication, and a willingness to adapt to new realities. For you, the viewer, staying informed is more important than ever. The choices made in Tokyo and Washington aren't just abstract policy decisions. They shape the world we live in, from the gadgets we use to the security that we feel. In the end, this isn't just their story, it's also ours. So stay curious, stay connected, and don't underestimate the power of understanding the bigger picture. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button down below. It really helps me out and lets me know that you're interested in seeing more of my content. Also, if you have any thoughts or questions about the video, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below. I always love hearing from you guys and getting your feedback on how I can improve myself. Thank you.